conference. I really wish I could be with you all in person. I would like to welcome all of the advocates on the call, as well as members of the media, of the news media. Thank you so much for having an interest in this conversation. My name is Josh Crossan. I'm the executive director at Ed Allies, which is an education advocacy group that fights to ensure all of our kids have access to an excellent education. How today's going to go is I'll just give you a rundown of the bill that's being considered right now in the House that has an effect of pushing out our teachers, predominantly our teachers of color, and then hand it over to community members to tell a little bit about why this act is wrong-headed and that we need to be sure to keep all of our teachers in the classroom, especially in times of a pandemic. So only 5% of our teachers are teachers of color, but over 20% of our tier 1 and tier 2 teachers are teachers of color. As Pelsby's executive director, Alex Lutzy, said on December 11th, tiered licensure is having an effect on bringing teachers of color into the profession. Our tiered licensure system is working. It's working to diversify our teacher workforce by removing barriers to teaching for economically disadvantaged teachers and teachers of color. The bill that the House Education Finance Committee will be considering this morning, where they've given an hour and 20 minutes to its supporters and only 10 minutes to us advocates who are concerned and oppose this legislation, which is why we're having this press conference today, to have our voices heard. They are going to rebuild those barriers that have been successful at keeping teachers of color out of the classroom. I've heard it is the intent of the legislature, and I've heard it's the intent of Minnesota to enact anti-racist legislation. But if this legislature moves forward on this bill, their impact would be anything but anti-racist. HF 1376, which is going to be heard today, changes eligibility requirements, taking tier 2 teacher licenses away from current teachers and closing pathways for future educators. The bill also removes the pathway that allows tier 2 teachers to be promoted to tier 3 licensure based on their experience and teacher effectiveness. This bill adds new limits on how long tier 1 teachers of color can teach, eliminating equitable policies designed to keep teachers of color in the classroom. In short, this bill reverses our efforts to diversify the teacher workforce. Now, supporters of this bill will claim that our old system was sufficient. With only 4% teachers of color and some of the worst outcomes for our students of color in the nation, I'm simply not sure how going back to an old system is something we should be striving for. Supporters of this bill are afraid of who we're letting into the profession, even if their efforts disproportionately keep teachers of color out. Well, today I'm worried about who we would be keeping out of the profession, and who we've been keeping out of the profession for far too long. Our state owes a debt of gratitude to all of our teachers, including our tier 1 and tier 2 teachers, especially during this pandemic. This year has been especially difficult, and many of our teachers stepped up. Policymakers were comfortable bringing more tier 1 and tier 2 teachers into the fold to address severe shortages throughout the state. Parents and students want great teachers. They don't come into the classroom asking whether or not their teacher is a tier 1, 2, 3, or 4. They just want great, diverse teachers. Voting for this bill would end the career of the teachers who are making an impact and just want to teach. And we'll be saying as much today during the legislature. Now, I would like to first welcome our first speaker, Sandra Samuels with the Northside Achievement Zone.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, my name is Sandra Samuels. I am president and CEO of the Northside Achievement Zone, and I live in North Minneapolis, have lived here for 24 years and raised 3 daughters, and have spent my entire career fighting for more equity. And the murder of George Floyd, which we are reeling from right now as a city and a state, has really pulled back the veil around the inequities in this state. And because of smartphones, people get to see that that racism is real and that a white police officer had his knee on the neck of George Floyd. Well, metaphorically, we've had our knees on the neck of Black and brown and low-income children in this state for decades now. We all navel gaze around the inequities and the achievement gap. And we finally are at this place where people are waking up and they're saying, we have to do more. It has to be different. And my gosh, I spent years fighting for alternative pathways for teachers of color to get into the classrooms. We know the data. We know that we're worst in the nation around equity for Black and brown and low-income kids. We know the data says that kids having teachers who look like them are more likely to go to college and succeed. We know the data that says that we have to have high-performing teachers in our classroom and more diverse teachers. So why would we ever try to block something that is absolutely working? I've seen it time and time again. Because of union rules, last in, first out, we lose Black and brown teachers every time there's a budget cut. It's happening right now. This is a pathway, this is an effort to get more teachers of color in the classroom and great teachers and keep them. And in closing, I'm going to say this. We are at this point in our history in this state where we are either going to go really fast forward. And after this pandemic, knowing the urgency that our children have, we don't have a choice but to accelerate outcomes. We're either going to do that because of the anti-racist policies that we enact, or we're going way backwards and we will lose a generation. I submit to you that this bill, if it passes, will cause us to basically put a whole generation of kids on the chopping block. It is that serious, every policy. I ask that all of you think twice. I think the people who want to pass this, they're good people. They just have really a wrong plan. This is a wrong plan. Don't do it. Love up on our kids and do not pass this bill.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Next, we have Paula Cole from Educators for Excellence.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Really, my name is Paula Cole. I am the Executive Director of Educators for Excellence, Minnesota. We have 2,300 members approximately across the state, and 60% of our members are teachers of color. And we all collectively strongly oppose the provisions that would undo our state's tier licensure system that has made it possible for more teachers like me to join the profession and to stay in it. I am still a licensed teacher, Tier 4. I began teaching with what you know now as the Tier 1 license, formerly known as Community Expert License. And I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to protect pathways to the profession for teachers like me. We have spent in this season, we have spent a lot of time talking about how important teacher diversity is. And then we have sometimes, this is just really counterintuitive. And if there's something I want you to take away from me today, is this. I have 10 years of teaching experience. I was a teacher coach. I was a teacher performance observer, and I can tell you that the idea that the only way you can be an effective teacher is through a teacher prep program is flawed, is wrong. I've seen teachers with 2 years experience being awarded excellence certificates, and I've also been mentoring teachers who have 10 years of experience, who have needed a lot of support. You know what makes the difference for teacher effectiveness is good coaching and mentorship. And those teachers who have their principals vouching for them today deserve to be in the classroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Paula. And Paula mentioned that she started as a Tier 1 teacher and moved her way up to Tier 4 teaching. Something to note is Minneapolis and St. Paul have the highest number of Tier 1 and Tier 2 teachers. Minneapolis has the most Tier 2 teachers, and St. Paul has the most, St. Paul Public Schools have the most Tier 1 teachers. So taking these pathways away would have a detrimental impact on our Twin Cities, definitely. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Christine Gerdes. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly, Christine.
Yeah, no, it's Gerdes, it's okay.
Oh, Gerdes, sorry.
Hi, so my name is Christine Gerdes and I'm from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And we have a population where 40% of our students are on free or reduced lunches. And I started out, them wanting to take my teacher license away makes me kind of just so sad, because I love teaching. I love these kids. I love every single one of them. And they can tell that I love teaching science and I love being here. And just because I ended up with a bachelor's degree in science, 25 years ago when I graduated from high school or from college, worked for the federal government for a while, stayed at home with my daughters for 5 years, and then decided, hey, I'm going to get into, the school system. I was a paraprofessional for special ed, and I loved that. I loved the diversity. I loved the, differentiation in the students. And my principal one day approached me and said, hey, we have a part-time science, teaching job. Would you like to try that? And I said, yeah. He goes, because you just have this passion for school and for science. And I did that, and it's been 5 years now. And in that meantime, I got my master's degree in education, and the Minnesota Department of Education is still telling me that I am not good enough to get a tier 3 or tier 4 license because I didn't take their teacher prep courses in Minnesota. My master's degree was an online program, and I keep telling them, I have 5 years of teaching. I have been in this school district for 11 years. I have glowing reports from my principal. I have glowing reports from parents, and I have worked my butt off. And teachers like me who took a different approach should not be penalized because we didn't follow their specific guidelines and go to a teacher prep course in Minnesota. So I am very passionate about this because we're going to lose valuable teachers, especially in a time when we cannot afford to do that in Minnesota. It's just something that it should not happen. And we have all taught through Corona and done a wonderful job. So for them to say that we're not good enough, it breaks my heart. These students are going to be the ones that are impacted.
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you so much for your service as a teacher. We have another teacher on, Kelsey Clodfelter. Kelsey, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Great. Hi. Go for it.
All right. My name is Kelsey Clodfelter. I am an AP Language and Composition teacher at Hiawatha Collegiate High School with a Tier 2 license. And if this bill were to pass, I would only be able to teach in my current role for 3 more years. I think the goal of the proposed licensure is to ensure that teachers in the state are well qualified. But I want you all to consider this. This is my 9th year in education and my 7th year as a full-time teacher. I have a master's degree in literacy education from the University of Minnesota. I have coached teachers at Teach for America, and I'm currently the head of the literature department at my school. Finally, I'm finishing up a competitive 2-year fellowship with Stanford Center for Teaching and Learning. So quite frankly, I am insulted by the new legislation that deems me as underprepared for a long-term career in teaching. Some of my experiences have guided me toward a pedagogical philosophy that really emphasizes the importance of choice and creating multiple pathways for students to succeed. We know that a one-size-fits-all approach can never really meet the needs of all of our learners because the students we teach are individuals with unique values and interests and backgrounds. So it follows that choice and variety foster the most authentic learning. I think every experienced educator I know would agree with this ethos. And I wish that Minnesota's teacher licensing body would listen to the wisdom of its educators. So just as teachers create multiple pathways to becoming a successful student, the state should create multiple pathways to becoming a successful teacher. I think the adoption of the tiered licensure system was a really positive step in that direction. But the proposed changes will do more than just limit some of those pathways that allow people to get into the profession and advance within it. They will actively push experienced educators out of the classroom. And even worse, as so many people have touched on, the bill will disproportionately impact teachers of color who already face so many barriers to enter the profession and who have so much to offer our students. So when my license expires, I, along with countless other educators, will have to make a choice to either complete introductory level coursework that will put a strain on our time and financial resources, or relocate and teach somewhere else that honors our experience in the field of education. So I want to be really clear that HF 1376 will not push me out of the classroom, but it very well may push me out of the state.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Kelsey and Christine are two amazing educators that we want to keep in our classroom. And as Kelsey mentioned, tier 1 and tier 2 teachers are disproportionately teachers of color. So 1 in 4 of our teachers of color are currently in the classroom with a tier 1 or tier 2 license. So this will have impacts on our 2 teachers who testified today or spoke today, as well as countless others who want to enter the profession, especially our teachers of color. Up next, we have a student, Jose Perez. Jose.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and awesome. Sorry about that, y'all. Thank you so much for everyone's time and for everyone speaking. My name is Jose Perez. I am a freshman at St. Paul College. I am a first generation high school graduate from High School for Recording Arts. And like so many of us, I oppose House File 1376. School has always been a struggle for me. I was forced to repeat the first grade. Reading has always been painful for me. Until the 4th grade, whenever I was told to take tests, I would literally bang my head on the desk until they let me out of taking the tests. Teachers would mention I'd had dyslexia or maybe other learning disabilities, but I was never given specific support. And in 9th grade, I failed most of my classes and I was on track to drop out. None of my teachers were of color. None of them looked like me. None of them resonated with me. I was very fortunate that I found High School for Recording Arts, which serves students who have struggled in other schools. For me, it was a trip of 2.5 hours each way every day, taking 2 buses, a train, and then a walk home. I made that sacrifice because I could learn with passionate teachers who built relationships that re-engaged me and so many other students in learning. One of my most inspiring teachers was Ms. Haben Gebergerkish. Ms. Haben is a Black graduate of Egan High School and in the University of Chicago. She is in her 6th year of teaching math. Ms. Haben has a tier 2 licensure. My experience is why I oppose 1376. This bill will make it harder for outstanding tier 1 and tier 2 teachers like Ms. Haben to stay in teaching. Since tier 1 and tier 2 teachers are 4 times more likely to be of color than any other tier, this means 1376 new barriers will reduce the number of teachers of color in Minnesota. This would be a disaster for students like me, for whom teachers of color are often crucial in helping students of color reach our full potential. Now, I'm going to be going to testify in front of this committee and asking them and almost begging them to not block the teachers' pathway to continue the work of uplifting students like myself and so many others, because their work is life-changing and underappreciated. And I truly appreciate everyone in this press conference, and I feel the gravity that this holds. So I stand with you and I stand with our teachers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Jose. And Jose will be speaking today to the legislature as well. Next up, we have Makisha Nation from Teach for America. Makisha.
Hello, my name is Makisha Nation. I'm the Executive Director for Teach for America here in the Twin Cities. Teach for America has been operating in Minnesota since 2009, and our mission is to ensure that all students have access to an excellent education. As an AmeriCorps program, our core members start with a 2-year commitment to provide rigorous instruction in the classroom. They continue to have a lifetime commitment to advance education equity and to support youth and family well-being in our communities. To date, Teach for America has recruited, trained, and placed over 300 teachers in the Twin Cities. And in the past 3 years, 30 to 45% of our 1st and 2nd year teachers have been teachers of color. Also during this duration, we've had a 3-year retention rate of over 85% for our 1st and 2nd year teachers. In addition to this work we do to place early career teachers, we also have an extensive program that we've run for the past 7 years to recruit and attract incredible talent to the state. We have been recruiting teachers, administrators, principals, and school system leaders to Minnesota. Through this process in the past 7 years, we've recruited over 200 talented teachers and leaders in this event. 25% of them have been teachers of color. 32% of our participants have been in licensure shortage areas, such as special education. English as a second language, or STEM teachers. Through this program, close to 60% of our alumni come back to the state to teach and lead. Because of these efforts, there are now currently over 900 Teach for America alumni in the Twin Cities community. 70% are still working within education, and the majority are in K-12 classrooms as educators, support staff, and administrators. This is a critical aspect of our work, and we have longstanding commitment and invested interest in supporting the education landscape in Minnesota to address the severe education achievement gaps that we know are in our state. We truly believe that provisions in this HR 1376 actually will make it harder for teachers to be able to progress through their profession and to enter the profession. Now, folks will tell you that people in opposition don't believe in teacher preparation or think just anybody can come into the profession. That is not what everybody's talking about today. We believe in rigorous preparation, ongoing support, coaching, and mentoring, and we see it as foundational for cultivating, developing effective educators. We also believe that as a state, we should have an approach that provides options and pathways and differentiation for the needs of our teacher candidates, our schools and our districts, and ultimately for the preparation that is required to help us improve the results for students in our community so that more students learn, lead, and thrive. We know that this is important, especially now as we're facing the dual pandemics of COVID-19 and the racial reckoning that has been happening in our state and across the country and the globe. It is really essential that we continue to maintain diverse pathways for folks to enter the profession, to increase the diversity of our teacher workforce, and to make sure those pathways are viable for the future generation of students. And our schools are really advocating for this because they have seen the benefits of what the current tiered licensure system has allowed them to do in terms of their comprehensive talent planning and the impact and engagement it is driving for their students. Do not take these pathways away. As a mom myself with 3 kids, three boys in Minnesota, I do not want to see this change happen because it will decrease the likelihood that my child will actually have a teacher of color during their K-12 experience. This is critical, is personal, and is really impactful for what we are saying as a state, given our racial equity emphasis in the legislation, given the anti-racist orientation that we've taken to policy. These changes are in direct conflict of that stated intention that we've had all of our senior leaders sign on to this year. Please consider not passing these specific aspects of legislation that will limit our tiered licensure system and our access to equitable and effective educators. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Makisha. Next, we have another student, Lincoln Bacall.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Lincoln Bacall. I'm 17 and I just graduated from Venture Academy this spring. I'm currently a youth advocate at Bridgemakers. And I'm here to speak on this because the teacher that, changed the outcome of my life was a tier 2 teacher. So I really did not enjoy school until high school. It was something that I had to do and something that I skipped out on sometimes. I wasn't always completing my work. I wasn't honestly the best or most respectful student because nobody ever personalized it for me. I get to a new high school, I'm the new kid, everyone knew each other. And within the first couple of weeks, this teacher sits down with me for about an hour and a half, takes an hour and a half out of his day, gets to know me and asks me what I'm interested, asks me what I'm passionate about. That had never happened to me before. Like, that was totally revolutionary for me. I had never had a teacher ever who had shown that kind of interest and care for me. And here's the thing is he was doing it for every single other student. It wasn't just me. Later on in high school, he became my mentor. He was also my English teacher and taught me AP World History, which can be a very dry, very not interesting class, but it was so engaging. And I think the reason he was such a good teacher is because he brought so much of himself to school. It wasn't like he was just some authority figure that was there to, teach us and bring us through the classroom, get us out of the building and graduate. But he was someone that we actually got to know and would be very honest with us. We could always ask him personal questions, have conversations with him. And later on, when he became my mentor in 11th and 12th grade, I was able to reach out to him for support whenever I needed it. it's incredibly valuable to have a teacher in the building that you know you can trust and talk to at any time. And that was something that helped me graduate. It was something incredible to be able to, you know, be having a bad day. If I wasn't able to focus or something was going on in my personal life, I was able to just text him or step out of class, sit down with him and say, you know, I need a minute, like I need to sit here with you. And he'd say, absolutely, talk to me, what's going on. That is not something that every teacher is able to do, and every teacher takes the time out of their day to do. He was a tier 2 teacher. He is a tier 2 teacher, and he took that time to do that. And he really showed me and everyone else in my high school that he cared about us and was there for us all the way through graduation. He's also all of my friends' favorite teacher. And the fact that he's so many different people's favorite teacher has got to say something, and it's got to demonstrate his value to the school and to the classroom. And so I really hope that, you know, this bill isn't passed because it would take him and teachers like him out of the classroom when they've also clearly demonstrated that they're essential and that they have been integral parts of students' success and ability to graduate. I also wanted to mention that you know, a lot of teachers are very focused on academics, as they should be, but he was also very focused on our mental health and our ability to do well outside of the classroom, which I think is something extremely valuable, and schools don't always create the space or take the time to discuss that with their students or hold space for their students in that way. So I would just like to emphasize that part again, because I think that that was incredible. And I was very lucky to have him as a teacher. I was incredibly lucky. And so were every one of my classmates. So I just hope that, you know, this testimony that we're giving now is impactful to our lawmakers, and that they really hear this and hear us as stakeholders telling them that this bill would hurt so many young people for years and years to come. And I actually spoke at a press conference when they tried to undo this tiered licensure system about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. And this is so recent, you know, this tiered system is so new, it doesn't make sense even at this point to try to dismantle it before we even see the impact and the new outcomes it's going to have for young people in Minnesota. So again, thanks for being here to listen to our testimony. I appreciate all y'all's time this morning.
Thank you so much, Lincoln. Next, we have Heather Anderson from Minneapolis. Heather.
Good morning. My name is Heather Anderson, and I am proud to be here this morning, both as a parent and also as a representative of the Advancing Equity Coalition. We have a mission of developing the political will to eliminate institutional racism in Minneapolis public schools. And our coalition is focused on ensuring students of color and Indigenous students have great teachers. And also, you know, our family moved to Minneapolis in the fall of 2016. Our students were enrolled at a school in 196 where there wasn't a person of color on staff in the building. And we moved here to Minneapolis Public Schools really to see if we could have a more diverse and more equitable experience for our children. And while we were able to find a lot of different experiences in the student body, whereas my students weren't only one or maybe two of the only students of color in the class, in Minneapolis Public Schools, 66% of our students are students of color, but we have 2,870 teachers in our district. But of those teachers, only 2,289 of those teachers are white. Our teaching staff does not in any way reflect our student body. And we have research has shown that teacher diversity increases student engagement, student achievement, high school completion, and college attendance. And those benefits are amplified when the student shares the identity and the teacher shares the identity together, right? The problem is that we aren't really seeing any way forward in changing these numbers in any significant way over the next 10 years. The odds of changing something when we aren't changing the metrics or the controls that are in place in order to move those things are very, very low. I think if we even changed ourselves 1%, right, we still have students of color, Black students specifically, are represented by Black teachers at a ratio of 55-1. White students in Minneapolis public schools are represented at a ratio of 5-1. We cannot continue to allow these metrics to move forward, and we need to make sure that we create more ways for teachers of color in our classrooms, not knowingly push out teachers of colors that are already existing. So I would just like to really caution us to think about the fact that we have to continue to change the mechanisms, the gatekeeping, the things that hold people back, because our children, the children who are in these buildings today, they don't get a second childhood. They don't get to do third grade over again. They go into this community and to this state and to our country as the citizens that we have invested in. And they only get one chance, and we only have one opportunity to do right by these students today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. And would you like to introduce your kiddo? Hattie?
Yes, this is my daughter, Hattie Anderson.
Yeah, and go for it, Hattie.
Hello, my name is Hattie Anderson, and I'm a student at Justice Page Middle School. Out of my 8 years of education attending Minnesota schools, I never had a black teacher, or not even black, just a colored teacher. I had like a couple black substitute teachers, and I felt like I enjoyed classes more. It was particularly math. I don't enjoy math at all, but the experience of having a black teacher in general, hello, my name is Hattie Anderson. I'm a student at Justice Page Middle School. Out of my 8 years of education, I never had a teacher of color nor black. I did have a couple black substitute teachers, but that's it. Out of my couple substitute teachers that are teachers of color, I did enjoy class more, especially math. I usually don't enjoy math. I felt like I learned more that day, too, as a substitute teacher. But I just feel like I do have I have a social worker, one of my favorites. He's black, and I just feel like I can just talk to him more about stuff. He can understand me more, and not even only students of color that you can see a mirror. I feel like white students I feel like they're more comfortable with them. Maybe that's just me, but you know. Also, last year, I did have a couple problems with a couple of teachers, and they were white. I felt like I was silenced. Me and my closest friends were silenced because my white teacher, they said we weren't black. It felt like a white teacher told me and my black friends that we're not black, and it felt like they were silencing us and taking our identity away. If we had more, more colored teachers, that wouldn't have happened. Maybe the teachers of color could teach them or tell them what to say and not to say at moments. Maybe she meant something else, but I don't think you should ever say that to a student of color, especially at a young age. I feel like that was very, it's not okay. But that's why I think we should we should pass the bill to have more teachers of color, just for students of color to see a mirror. Yeah, I think that's important. But thank you for my time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hattie. And as Hattie mentions, we need more teachers of color in the classroom. We need more people that look like, us, frankly, Hattie, you and me, and Makisha and Jose, right, in front of the classroom. And it's not happening if we pass bills like HF 1376 that would push those teachers out of the classroom by elevating licensure requirements, that by putting up new barriers around licensure. Last up, we have Kulia Pringle, and after Kulia, we'll be open for some questions. Kulia, take it away.
Hi, I'm Kulia Pringle, and I am a Bright Beam activist. I would just first want to say that I echo everything that everybody else has said. There's really not much left to say. And I do want to, before I start talking, I do want to say I did have something written down, but I just want to make sure that my emotions come through. I went through a traditional teacher prep program, and like many of the students who look like me in K-12, I was on a path to drop out. If it wasn't for the teachers of color at my teacher prep program who kept me going, I would not have graduated my teacher prep program. The amount of barriers that I faced when I went through that program, and had I had the opportunity to access the alternative licensure program with my undergraduate degree, as opposed to accumulating more debt to go through the teacher prep program, and then also struggling with student teaching, having to put it off for a year because then I couldn't afford to work full time for free because I was a full-time mom, had to take care of myself and my child. So idea that, you know, that pathway is a way, or the traditional way is a way that will increase teachers of color is just preposterous. And if it would have already done that. And then the idea that you know, teacher prep program is the only way to go. If that was the case, if the traditional way to go, why do we have what's called an achievement gap? Why do we have suspension disparities? Why do we have overly labeling of Black children in special education? Why do we need culturally competent teachers? Why aren't our classrooms culturally responsive? Why? It's because what's working, or what we've been doing, is not working. And as Lincoln said earlier, the idea that this licensure alternative pathway has only been in existence for a few years, and immediately upon its inception, the backlash, or the opposition from special interest groups against this bill, the same people who say, we want to increase teachers of color, we want to diversify our teachers of color. I don't understand talking out of both sides of your neck. In one way, you tell me you want to increase teachers of color, and in the other way, you're actively opposing like alternative ways for teachers of color to enter the field. So I am so frustrated. I am irritated. I am livid. I am tired, because not only do I have to help parents fight every day to get justice in their classrooms, not only do I have to go to the school board meeting to get justice for kids in school districts, not only do I have to keep up on the many amounts of bills just to get education equity, I also gotta fight to make sure that there's teachers like me in the classroom. And I'm not in the classroom right now because I'm outside of the classroom trying to make sure teachers of color are in the classroom. I'm trying to make sure parents have access to somebody who can help them advocate. So students of color who look like me don't even have access to me because I'm still trying to fight. And I'm so tired of fighting. So to the legislators, to anybody, to the people that keep saying that they want people who look like me to be in front of the classrooms, show and prove. Walk and talk, or walk what you're saying that you say that you're going to do. I'm tired of hearing we want teachers of color, and then when there's actually legislation, or there's actually ways in order for teachers to become, or people of color to become teachers, there's opposition, and your opposition is strong because you have money and you have power and you have wealth, and you have political power. It's just little old, it's just a regular us, you know what I mean? We are coming with just our voices, as Josh said, 10 minutes against an hour. That says a lot. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cooley, and thank you so much everyone who's able to speak today and advocate and tell your voice. As Cooley said today, we have a hearing on this bill at 10:30 a.m. And opposition only has 10 minutes of the hour and a half hearing. So which is why, again, we decided to have this press conference to tell our stories and not let other people determine how long we get to speak, but have the power ourselves to speak. So right now I'll open up for questions, and feel free to call on anyone else who just spoke today. But yeah, opening up for some questions. All right. Did my pregnant pause. Well, I would like to, and we have the contact information for everyone here. So folks on the call, if you want to reach out to anyone who spoke today, please feel free to do so. With that, I'm looking forward to seeing a few of your faces at the 10:30 hearing. But yeah, with that, we're wrapping up here. So thank you so much. Adrian, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat box. Adrian Vitt is our communications director at Ed Allies, and she'll be the contact person for anyone who would like to reach out. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thank you all for joining us on Facebook land, watching on Facebook Live. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everybody.